Ladies and gentlemen, I have my work cut out for me. It was just the other day that I finally did a video talking about something that I like with the Marvel Rivals game, but in the midst of doing that, right when I was putting out that video, yet another big scandal of people behind the scenes in the entertainment industry of today not understanding a major character and making a lot of changes to them without any sort of acknowledgement of the damage that it would do to that character. And I have a little bit to discuss in terms of what character that is, what changes that they're making, and basically who I am on this channel, because people project a lot onto me and what my motivations are behind the scenes. So let's get into that. This has to do with the live action Avatar Last Airbender show. I watched one episode of that show and gave up, as maybe longtime viewers will recall. I thought it was awful. I thought that it misunderstood the characters. And they had controversy with one of the changes they made to the characters with Sokka, removing his sexism, and that changed his characters and changed. They even changed his immaturity. It was a Johnny Storm situation, what they did recently with that character, wrecking them. Basically, for the same excuses where we are culturally, couldn't have that character. Really stupid stuff to not acknowledge why the character would have these flaws or what they would mean. But here's the thing. In this day and age, it's for the very same reason that they've been saying why they've been changing a lot of male characters like that, is that they assume even having a male character with those flaws of being immature and how he thinks of and treats women means that you're somehow condoning that, or that that's offensive because people in the audience just aren't going to be able to handle even seeing that for a character who's supposed to be our protagonist, not understanding the journey that it is supposed to send that character on in terms of an arc. But it seemed like the showrunners of Avatar were just of that mindset, and I just think it's so pointless because they made those changes and it ended up making things worse. It changed the personality of the character a lot, and it changed his dynamic with his girlfriend later in the show, to now she is the one pursuing him rigorously rather than teaching him as it was in the original show. But I guess I thought that the Avatar Last Airbender live action remake people were of that mindset, this sort of modern day mindset. But then this comes out, and when they announced that they were going to do a second season and Toph was going to come in, and Toph is like one of my favorite characters from the original show, and what I think is the second best character. The first would be Zuko, a character so well written it actually ruined other characters and other villains as they were trying to mimic his journey from villain to hero. But anyway, I knew that they were going to find some way to ruin Toph because they don't understand anything about that original show. But this is what was said about her, with the actress of the character saying, "My version of Toph is going to be a little older and slightly more feminine." Now, that alone is a major misunderstanding of the character. The entire point of Toph is that she is one of the younger ones, and that is subversive with how strong and powerful she is and how wise she is when it comes to earthbending. And to say that she's more feminine is also very, very confusing because while I wouldn't say that Toph is straight up a masculine character, but kind of the point of Toph, and it is made very, very explicit in the show, is that she comes from this very reserved family that doesn't accept her for who she is. They're very overprotective. They want her to, wear dresses and makeup and be much more reserved and feminine, but she doesn't want to be that way. She sneaks out and engages in earthbending matches. She walks around with her bare feet. Well, she does that because she needs to feel the earth, but she dresses a bit more tomboyish, and she's really a very rambunctious character at heart, and that's who she really is, and that's what makes her so entertaining to watch.
Toph, she must be so scared.
You think you're so tough? Why don't you come up here so I can smack that grin off your face?
I'm not smiling.
And so it's kind of the point, and it's made very, very clear that Toph has rejected this sort of femininity of wearing dresses and makeup and all of that because she sees that, she associates that with the restrictions of the family that she comes from and that she's trying to escape from is essentially what is going on there. So you see, it's very, very key to who the character is and what her story is and her background of being forced into being a more feminine character and what that has made her become now. So that's these are very, very key things, and they're key aspects that they're removing from the character. But it says here, next sentence, "I feel like I wanted to work into a very humanizing space for her because, she was a cartoon." So that's also gotten people upset because number one, you're saying that the character wasn't more human already because she was a cartoon, as if cartoon characters can't be very well written, dynamic, and expressive. Like cartoon characters can be even more expressive than live action. Certainly they're more expressive than the blank-faced characters of this show. But in just those two sentences, they expressed a major misunderstanding of the character and a disrespect for the original show. And that's just what we see these days, just constantly. What I was talking about the other day with Johnny Storm is a disrespect to the original characters from the material that they are ripping off of. But I want to explain something here, because these are two polar opposite discussions that we're having recently. One was on Johnny Storm and taking away all of his flaws, essentially. They want him to be a more melancholy character. They want him to be more sensitive. They don't want him to be the teasing, hot-headed, flirtatious character that he is supposed to be in the comics. And I got upset with that and accused them of emasculating him, essentially, which is what has happened to a lot of male characters these days. And a lot of people accuse me when I take that term to say, oh, Jester Bell, you're just this anti-woke, conservative, whoever. Like, people project what my beliefs must be based on making a stance like that. You don't understand or really acknowledge what my beliefs actually are. I am not a political person. I do not care about politics first and foremost. People don't understand that some of us are weird nerds and we care more about the writing of these characters that we love than we do any sort of political narrative. So if you are changing Johnny Storm, a character that I am very emotionally attached to, and I am more emotionally attached to the Marvel characters than I am to even the Avatar characters, let's say, that's why I got more upset. If you are changing a character who he is supposed to be at its core, not because you misunderstand him, but because you are trying to appease some sort of culture that doesn't exist because you think that people can't handle basic flaws, then that's going to get me really mad. And I'm going to fight you over that because here you are ruining a character for no reason. And that's what happened with Sokka from Avatar: The Last Airbender too. But so the confusing thing that people might say of making that sort of projection of my beliefs on here and what matters most to me might be, oh, well, why would you have a problem with making a character more feminine? Because isn't that what the anti-woke want? I never claimed to be an anti-woke person on here. I am merely just a person who cares about the writing. So maybe you would have some people on that side who would demand more feminine characters. My stance on having more feminine characters, it's just that it's become a go-to for a long time to have to, when female characters are supposed to be strong, that they're supposed to be more masculine. And after a lot of those characters that were bad at that, I was just like, it's not bad. You could have characters who are strong and also a little bit more feminine. Like, that's not a bad thing at all. It's just saying that you can have a character who is a strong woman and embraces femininity at the same time. But at the same time, it's also not bad at its core to have a female character who is maybe a bit more masculine in how she presents herself. And by the way, it's not necessarily bad to have a male character who is more masculine, or maybe he's an emasculated character. It's all about, what is the purpose of this story? What is the purpose of this character? What is the point behind them? And what is the reasoning for this character being that way? And are you changing it not because of any narrative sense to it, but because you are trying to appease a certain group? And that is what I'm saying here with Toph, is none of the reasons that they gave for making her this way made any sense. It seems like a egregious misunderstanding of the character, and I would wonder, is this happening because the pendulum is swinging too far back the other way, and they've heard a lot of criticism for masculine female characters, and the idea for so long that that's kind of been the standard of when we have a strong female character, they're more masculine. And by the way, that is kind of the mindset that Toph was a character created under. She was originally supposed to be a boy, and then they came up with this character, and then they asked, well, why couldn't this just as well be a female character? At the time that Avatar was coming out, there was a bit more of a handle on feminism from these shows, a bit more of an understanding about how to do these characters correctly, and it wasn't necessarily the fact that Toph was masculine that made her a strong character. It was the sense that made to her character. So my question is, since the read on her just doesn't make any sense here, why is she more older and more feminine when that goes exactly against her character very explicitly? explicitly. I was wondering, is it an overcorrection that we've had just a lot of masculine, strong female characters lately that have gotten a lot of criticism, and this is the pendulum swing too far back? But at this point, I don't understand where Hollywood is really at, because on the one hand, you know, we're kind of seeing the thing with Johnny Storm, which is the same thing that we've seen over and over again, where they're afraid of male characters being, you know, a bit more rambunctious, you know, a bit more flawed, a bit more flirtatious, a bit more rude in the case of Sokka as well. You can't have that, can't have any sort of sexism or misogyny that a character has to grow out of, even if it's explicitly portrayed as a bad thing that they have to grow out of. That has to be removed because they're afraid of offending people by even depicting that. But on the other hand, now we hear it from Toph, where for a while now with this same mindset, it's been just common to take a more masculine approach to female characters and a more making sure that they are strong and all of that. And they made changes to Katara, which were misguided changes because she was already strong in the original show, where they actually softened the story of her overcoming sexism, because that's the way we are in this day and age. Everything is softened up. Everything is made super sensitively because they're afraid of offending people. Even people just seeing the depictions of such things, even if it's there just to make a feminist statement. But with Toph, it's confusing because you think that they would just go forward with a character like this as it was and not make changes to her, because she kind of, you know, fits. She kind of fits with a tougher female character who goes against the norms and shuts down the naysayers. And she isn't fighting against sexism in her storyline either, because apparently they're so offended they can't even show that. But they found a way, though. It's interesting. They found a way to mess up her character and misinterpret her and change her. And they're not understanding the core reasons why her character was even like that. So I'm wondering, is it an example of the pendulum swinging too far back and them just misunderstanding criticism? I don't know, because I don't understand the mindset of the people running this show. It's like they just have to find a way. It's like they don't even have a consistent ideology or anything. They just have to find a way to wreck these characters. But my mindset is always, I'm on the side of these characters first. I don't care what your ideology is. Can these characters be done correctly? Can you actually respect them as who they are and not have to change them because you're trying to appease anyone in a certain group? But that's unfortunate. It's crazy how many people work behind the scenes these days. They can't understand basic things about the characters, and they are always changing them, I guess, as just a reaction to the society of the time. Well, we have to change this character because it wasn't good enough. We have to change this character. And they don't understand the reason why you're milking Avatar: The Last Airbender so hard is because that show was so well written and they did their characters so right that people love those characters. They don't need to be changed. The only reason why this is an IP for you guys to milk is because it was so good in the first place. Why would you think that you need to change anyone? So, in other words, my mission statement for this channel is it is always on the side of the characters first. Is it bad to have more feminine characters? No. Is it necessarily bad because you have a more masculine female character? Also, no. It is all, sometimes we might have feelings based on just what we've seen a lot of and that we want to see some of the other thing, but you should not change the characters that already worked like this, change the core elements of them because you're trying to appease anyone. But maybe that isn't even the reason. Maybe they are just that stupid that they just don't understand this character. But it was just a little odd to me to see such a major change to a character in the name of being more feminine when we haven't really seen that from Hollywood lately. So I'm just questioning the motives, and I'm questioning exactly where is Hollywood at right now in terms of how ideology and the standards of the day are affecting their writing, and are they ever going to just respect any of their characters that they're constantly trying to milk to death? But that's all I got for you guys today on these thoughts. Thank you for watching. Thank you so much. We have 8 channel members signing up. You can become a channel member if you would like, and that means that you guys are going to have your profiles displayed at the channel page. Thank you all for supporting the channel, or if you don't want to be a member, you could check out the Patreon page. Same benefits, just a different avenue. There is a $2.99 option if you want to become a member, though. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys next time.